have a rendezvous with death. We'll preserve the last best hope of man on Earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step of 1,000 years to die.
No fear. No political correctness. No wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salato, and you're spending a few moments in Underground USA. As the efforts to aid the people affected by Hurricane Helene continue, the news coming out of North Carolina about the actions of the federal government and FEMA is more than disturbing. It appears the actions taken by the FAA and FEMA are contrary to their chartered missions and seditious. Elon Musk took to X to express, through his SpaceX engineers with boots on the ground in North Carolina, that not only are FEMA and the FAA not helping them reestablish emergency communications and deliver critical emergency supplies to the affected, but both agencies are destructive to the effort. In the case of the FAA, it's about bureaucratic procedure which should have been suspended to prioritize humanitarian efforts. According to Musk, the level of belligerent government incompetence is staggering. In a post on X, one of Musk's engineers stated,
"They're now about to shut down the airspace to regulate the private choppers we are riding in to deliver Starlink and supplies. We are pushing back with Trump team as well to help us, but not looking good. The largest concern for us here is the FAA throttling flights for our choppers, where they are requiring to-from information and mission now to deliver a discrete code. Doing this takes a long time and very cumbersome to the ops. This is the largest concern and most help we could use."
There is no good reason humanitarian aid flights, including the delivery of communication systems, should be obstructed. Yet here we are. And ignorance of the effort is not an excuse. Musk has been in contact with the national disgrace that is Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who is slow-walking responses and running interference for what can only be interpreted as an obstructive effort of political motivation, seeing as 98% of the counties affected are red counties. In an exchange between Buttigieg, who has consistently been derelict in his duties as Transportation Secretary. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to point out one accomplishment of him in that role. Buttigieg said,
"No one's shutting down the airspace, and FAA doesn't block legitimate rescue and recovery flights. If you're encountering a problem, give me a call."
This statement inferred that Musk's efforts are not legitimate. Musk responded,
"There are hundreds of reports of FEMA, FAA blocking flights. This literally just happened. Still waiting. The helicopter's trying to land to deliver critical supplies. What's the number to call?"
To date, it appears Buttigieg hasn't replied to Musk. He's a depraved tyrant and a stooge of the Marxist left that doesn't give a damn about anyone he can't fake breastfeed from a fake tit. Keep in mind that this is after the Asheville Regional Airport issued a statement saying,
"Beginning at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, October 2nd, Asheville Regional Airport will permit only general aviation aircraft with prior FEMA clearance to land at the airport to ensure the safety of aircraft and personnel."
As for the dastardly actions of FEMA, which raided the emergency fund allocated to it to advance the Biden-Harris open borders political scheme to the tune of $1 billion over the last year and a half, and whose chief, impeached DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, said has no more money to execute its mission for the rest of the fiscal year, well, according to a SpaceX engineer, in a first-hand account,
FEMA's not merely failing to adequately help people in trouble, but is actively blocking citizens who try to help. The big issue is FEMA is actively blocking shipments and seizing goods and services locally and locking them away to state that they are their own. It's very real and scary how much they have taken control to stop people helping. We are blocked now on the shipments of new Starlinks coming in until we get an escort from the fire department, but they may not be enough.
This is unacceptable at every level. At any other time in American history, the President of the United States would have fired the DHS Secretary, the Transportation Secretary, and possibly the Interior Secretary for gross dereliction of duty. But we have a politically motivated imbecile as president, so that won't happen. At any other time in American history, a Congress that actually served the American people instead of their political parties would have impeached and convicted Buttigieg and Mayorkas, removing them from office. Instead, today, we have reprobates like Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Hakeem Jeffries, and the rest of the caustically partisan political whores who only think about the elections and the retention of power. And yet again, at any other time in American history, we would see the governors of states affected by this disaster nullifying FEMA's orders, superseding the FAA with a regional response takeover of the affected airspace to coordinate air traffic to prioritize humanitarian aid. Today, because North Carolina's governor is a knob gobbler of a weak-kneed, spineless partisan hack, we will never even see him considering that idea. All of this is outrageous, and we, as a people, should be incensed with rage at this additional nugget of spendthrift federal government globalist charity. On October 4th, just days after Mayorkas told reporters that FEMA is out of operational funding for the rest of the fiscal year, the U.S. federal government, the Biden-Harris administration, announced through a State Department press release the awarding of $157 million to Lebanon for humanitarian aid.
The United States will provide nearly $157 million in new U.S. humanitarian assistance to support populations affected by conflict in Lebanon and the region. This funding will address new and existing needs of internally displaced persons and refugee populations inside Lebanon and the communities that host them. This assistance will also support those fleeing to neighboring Syria. This life-saving assistance from the American people includes nearly $82 million immediately available to the Department of State's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, and $75 million to the United States Agency for International Development's Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance. Of this total, U.S. aid has already deployed $11.5 million, and working with Congress plans to make another $63.5 million available in the coming weeks to ensure that vital humanitarian assistance can continue to reach the most vulnerable communities in need. This emergency food, shelter, blankets, hygiene kits, protection, water, and sanitation assistance will be a critical lifeline for those who have endured unimaginable hardships.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Our federal government cares more about people in a decades-old war zone halfway around the world than it does its own citizens? We have $157 million to give away to foreign nationals, many who spit on the idea of America every Friday during prayer, but FEMA is out of money to execute its responsibilities to the American people? One post on Substack Notes reports an ex-post by Nashville Angela that states,
There are reports that Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina was told today that they will be the morgue for body recovery. As of a few days ago, there were reports of 900-plus bodies at the hospital that haven't been identified. There are also reports of babies and children washing up in the river, and more reports of bodies in trees. An insurance agent went to drop off suppliers in Asheville and set up relief tents yesterday. While setting up, they saw 4 babies, 3 children, as well as adult bodies that were recovered from the mud and the trees. National Guard member Breonna Bryant has also mentioned that they are seeing dead children. Those doing rescue operations are traumatized, and many survivors of the storm are suffering from survivor's guilt.
These people have endured unimaginable hardships right here in the United States, not halfway around the world in nations that take from the American taxpayer and give back what? Not even a thank you. But we do get a boatload of hatred, chance of death to America, and all the freedom-hating terrorists the region can provide. As example, under Biden-Harris, Iran, which hates our guts, is $71.02 billion richer because of the policies in place and the sanctions that were removed. And more egregiously, under Obama, the same mindset enriched the terrorist-supporting mullahs to the tune of $100 billion to $150 billion. And don't give me any bullshit about painting with too broad a brush. You know precisely what I'm talking about. White supremacists didn't take down the Twin Towers, execute the Boston Marathon bombing, or more currently, stated openly that they're targeting a former U.S. president and current presidential candidate for assassination. The only product coming out of the Middle East, excluding Israel, that isn't petroleum-based is death. Yet we keep flooding these oil-rich countries, countries that show no compassion or responsibility for their own people, with U.S. taxpayer dollars. This, while the people of Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and other areas affected by this natural disaster are not only ignored by the U.S. federal government and abused for politically opportune purposes just 30-plus days before an election, but actively denied aid through unconscionable actions of idiocy and cruelty. What do they get? FEMA announced that the people of North Carolina will receive $750, digitally deposited within 10 days. They'll have to provide proof of citizenship to receive the funds when they have restored electricity for the banks to open and process the deposits. Meanwhile, illegal immigrants received EBT debit cards loaded with $3,500, free cell phones, housing, education, and health care. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Kamala Harris, fuck Chuck Schumer, and fuck everyone who supports their republic-killing, tyrannical bullshit. It's one thing to be a partisan hack, but their policies are killing people, and those who support and vote for them have blood on their hands. Again, it's unacceptable and reprehensible and needs to be openly condemned by all of us. Write to your federally elected officials demanding that all non-essential and non-constitutionally mandated funds from all agencies and departments be redirected immediately to the humanitarian emergencies that exist in the affected states. This needs to be a red line in the sand moment for every single federally elected official, notifying them that they serve the people. They are not our lords and masters. This needs to be the moment when they understand that we, the people in the 50 separate states, allow the federal government to exist at all, and that they are our servants, not the usurpers of World Economic Forum globalism fifth-columned into our lives. Enough is enough. It's time to consider whether it's even worth having a federal government at all if this is the way they're going to abuse the American people. To everyone, I humbly ask that you dig deep, even if it's only a few dollars, and give them to either Samaritan's Purse or the Salvation Army. They always show up when disaster and tragedy strike. And to those persevering in the affected areas, and especially the first responders, who will, I guarantee you, never be the same after this. God bless you and keep you strong as you execute your duties and survive. If you like the podcast, please head on over to undergroundusa.com and sign up for our Substack. It comes direct into your email box, circumventing the censors and fact-checkers of social media. And by the way, Facebook is getting absolutely tyrannical when it comes to censorship. Just deleting posts with news links in it for contrived reasons. I urge you to sign up for Substack and learn how to use the notes over there. It is a very good alternative. And I urge you to get over to X and let's support free speech and Elon Musk. Fuck Facebook. And remember to talk politics, religion, and current events with your friends, families, acquaintances. That's where we find out we've got more in common than we have in difference, and that's how we stop this Marxist march to globalism that pisses all over the U.S. Constitution and our rights as individuals. We need to take a stand. You're listening to Underground USA, no fear, no political correctness, and no wokeism. My name is Frank Salvato.
Our First Amendment right, free speech, is under attack by woke activists and politicians. Wokeism seeks to suppress opinions and ideas that are deemed offensive, insensitive, or problematic, thereby stifling the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. It emphasizes social justice, identity politics, political correctness, and the regulation of language, and relies on euphemisms and ambiguous language to create the illusion of consensus, thus avoiding confrontation with opposing viewpoints. Wokeism is antithetical to free speech because it stifles the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. This is in direct opposition to the principles of free speech. Wokeism is an ideological cancer shopped by those who want to control you. This November, we have an opportunity to render wokeness to the ash heap of history. Vote smart. Vote against wokeness and those who would use it to control you.
And we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.